Welcome everyone to the Zodiacal Constellations and how they help to inform us personally and collectively now. I'm here with Cayelin Castell and my name is Erik Roth, and we are partnering up on this Zodiacal Stars Constellations webinar series, Magic and Mysteries of the Zodiacal Constellations, which are coming up September 6th as the first class, and there'll be 7 total coming up here. So this is just a brief introduction to this course, and you could we'll have some sharing, some information about how you might be able to use it in your life. And Cayelin, feel free to jump in here.
We're very excited. I have to tell you, I've been working on some things and I've been learning so much myself. I thought I knew a lot. Man, I didn't know as much as I thought I did. And I'm just getting really, really, really excited. I don't know how I got muted again. Anyway, I was just saying how excited I am because I'm learning so much. And one of the things that we've always looked at in the shamanic astrology paradigm is how, to what degree does the constellation inform the sign? This is something the Hellenistic astrologers asked because they knew that the signs and constellations, the signs were the seasonal energies and the constellations were the backdrop that the signs or seasons moved through. And so that was the question they asked. And then we forgot, and we haven't been asking that question. So now we're really seriously asking this question, and it's really fun. So, Erik.
Yes. So there's a book that we recommend, and this is a quote that's taken from the book itself. And so let me go ahead and read that to everybody here. Okay, so our ancestors made use of the power inherent within individual stars, the esoteric knowledge of the constellations, the secrets of celestial computations, and of cosmic order. The cultures who possess that vast body of wisdom in its entirety were able to answer vital questions about the nature of the universe and make giant leaps in evolution. They taught that all life is sacred and that all is alive, every star, every planet, every tree and stone, everything. And that knowledge gave them a technology that still puzzles us today. And this is by the author Paige Bryant.
What's really exciting about this is that this idea that they knew that the constellations had their own energy. They knew, and they've created stories and connected to those stories, and they knew that that it was important for them and for us. One of the things I think about often is I've had Vedic astrologers tell me, "You have no idea what you're talking about," because that isn't Aries, that's the fish, or that's Pisces, they call it. That's not Aries, that's Pisces. Or that's not and my moon is in the Scorpion. We're going to see that a little later. uh, your moon is not in Sagittarius, it's in the Scorpion. So they're looking at the constellations only. They're not considering the seasonal signs as part of another energy. And then tropical astrologers tend to be looking at these seasonal signs as a specific energy, but they're not considering that as these signs move through these constellations, there's an evolution, there's a something happening that's in helping to create another understanding with these seasonal signs. So we need them both. And what I love about this approach is that we are bringing back wholeness. We're bringing back these things that have been divided and separated. This is the right way. No, this is the right way. You don't really understand what's going on. No, you really don't understand what's going on. It's like, how do we bring it together so we can really understand what's going on? Yeah. So very exciting.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll go ahead and we can look at this. Part of the reason what Cayelin was talking about, this is the kind of a graphic of the constellations, and showing this green line here is the plane of the solar system, or what did we call the ecliptic. and that's the where the zodiacal constellations reside. And um, this red line here is the celestial equator. This is the projected equator from the Earth out into the sky. And there's this purple line. That's the band of the galactic plane, and that's where what we can call the Milky Way galaxy. And so this is where the December solstice is, right here between the Scorpion and the Archer. And so that's 0 degrees Capricorn. And the Archer is not Sagittarius. The Archer is now Capricorn. And so the Scorpion itself, though, is primarily Sagittarius, though, and the entire constellation here. So we can see that the constellations themselves are helping to inform the signs, but they are different. They both have something to share, wisdom, some star knowledge to share with us, along with the seasonal signs.
Yeah, this is really awesome because and where the sun rises at the December solstice on this cross of the plane of the solar system and the plane of the galaxy can only happen for a period of time, and it moves 1 degree every 72 years. So it came in within 1 degree in 1926 and it leaves 1 degree in 2070. That's a 144-year period. And this is something that was just found out by a astronomer named Jean Muse, who did the calculation to find when the sun was square on the cross, like 100% exactly on the cross. And that was in 1998. And he was literally inspired to do that calculation because Daniel Gemario asked him in a letter, sent him a letter back in the 80s, I think it was, or something, sent him a letter and asked him, and so he came up with the calculation, and then he included that in his book, one of his books on astronomical morsels. And so it's like, wow, so it's kind of interesting. It was sort of sneaky how an astrologer worked with an astronomer. The astronomer didn't know necessarily and came up with this calculation to let us know how we are in the center point currently from 1926 to 2070. If we use the 72-degree window, we would put 1962 to 2034 as this powerful central point. So here's the 0 Capricorn point where the sun happens to be rising currently. And then Capricorn overlays the constellation. We call it the Archer because if you say Sagittarius, people get completely confused. And so it's overlaying this constellation. And then Pluto's going into Aquarius, and it's kind of like at the kind of near the head between the Archer and the Goat. And the sea goat is Aquarius, the seasonal sign of Aquarius. 30 days after this December solstice, we have the season of Aquarius, and that constellation now behind it is the sea goat. And so why we call them different names? Because they got named the same names when we forgot they were different. And that's what creates all the confusion. And so many people just have a really hard time getting their head around, oh, wait, you mean, so I have Mercury in Aquarius. It's right here at the with the tail of the goat. And we'll see that in a moment. It's right here with the tail of the goat. But it's in Aquarius. It's in the seasonal sign of Aquarius, but it's in the constellation of the goat. So these are the things that are really inspiring when we start to understand, oh, so I get to add a knowledge and information around the goat, the sea goat, to my Mercury in Aquarius. So we're going to look at that a little more in a moment. Anything more about that, Erik?
No, I'm right with you on all of that. It's this is a tropical zodiac is what we're using here, and in connection with the seasonal signs and the way the constellations are overlaid there. So we're going to talk more about that as we go forward.
Yeah, so this is just a kind of one of the things we'll be talking about with each of the constellations is when the sun is in the seasonal sign of Capricorn. That happens from December 21st to January 20th, but it's not in the constellation. And it's going through, is what it is it's going through the constellation of the Archer. It's not in the Goat, also known as Capricornus or Capricorn. It's actually one whole constellation away from that. So the sun is in the Archer from December 22nd to January 20th. So if you have the sun in Capricorn, the sun was in this constellation when you were born. And then again, the sea goat right before the drawing here, it's like it starts and it goes from about January 19th to February 18th. It's about zero Aquarius to about 28 in that constellation. But the sun travels through this constellation from January 21st to February 16th, not at the same time as it's in the seasonal sign of Aquarius. Hence why my Mercury in Aquarius is in this constellation. I hope I made sense with that. I feel like I might have messed that up a little bit, but anyway, you kind of get the idea. And here we're showing you that the seasons. So the vernal equinox or the March equinox, and the autumnal equinox, when the balance of day and night happen, the equal day, equal night, and that's 0 Aries and 0 Libra. The solstices are the summer, or June and winter. Of course, in the southern hemisphere, it's always the opposite season. But those degrees of 0 Cancer for the June solstice and 0 Capricorn for the December solstice represent a seasonal experience. We're having either an equinox experience of balanced day and night, or we're having a solstice experience, longest day, shortest day, or longest night, shortest night. So it's clearly a seasonal experience, and that helps to inform our understanding of the signs as well when we can relate them to the seasons that they fall within.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, another example is my ascendant was in the sign of Capricorn when I was born, and but that's over here in the constellation of the Archer as well. And so it's telling you that, telling all of us and myself, of course, that it connects to a personal star there, but it also says you've got a constellation that is called Sagittarius by astronomers, and borrowed from the more ancient language. It is just an Archer, and it is overlaid now by the sign of Capricorn.
Yep. So and again, this is just, we're beginning to give you the sense of it. If you're not getting this all right now, that's okay. It took me a few years.
Oh my God, it's not going off. Leave.
So I'm gonna mute this person. Okay, there you go. So yeah. Anyway, next
Yeah.
slide, I think we need, yeah.
Yeah. So there was somebody had made a comment on here, but let me just
we'll post the replay when we're done with this, and you'll be able to go back and listen to it again and again, and however many times it takes. I had to hear this many, many times before I finally got it. I'd get it in the moment, and then I'd walk away and a few things, and then I'd look up in the sky, and then I'd be like, wait a second, I don't have it. And it took a while. It takes a while for you to get it, because it's so opposite of what we've been thinking for probably a lifetime.
Mm-hmm. There is, this is just a little bit of a preview, this not to take us too far afield here, but this is just on August 20th, there was August 20th, 21st, the sun was near Regulus and then conjunct Regulus. I caught it just before it went into conjunction on the sky map here. And this is showing this kind of the various zodiacal constellations here and how they're moving through and where they located on this orange line here, which is the ecliptic. Well, this is from the northern hemisphere position. So this is just giving you an image of what it looks like and how, obviously we have such a large northern hemisphere bias because, more than 3/4 of the world's population lives north of the equator. But things look different south. And you can see here on the same day what it looks like. And you can see the lion is upside down, the sun Regulus conjunction here, and the various other constellations that are on this place. So it's like the script is flipped. And this is looking north here. And then in this one is looking south. So you're looking in the direction of south and you're seeing these constellations. So this is just this is something we're going to talk about more in another video that her and I are going to do for the Zodiacal Stars, Zodiacal Constellations webinar series that we've got coming up.
Yeah, this is just a way to get a sense that a lot of it has to do with point of view. And I did see that somebody said, well, why are we even using the seasonal signs? Why aren't we just using the constellations? Because it's only part of the story. There's an evolution. Myth and story change over time as these seasonal signs that are a very real experience here on Earth. When we have the balance of day and night, when we have winter, summer, fall, spring, when we have these seasonal experiences that the signs are related to, that's a very real experience. And if we don't include that, we're missing out on a big understanding of how these things work together. And again, it's about bringing us back to wholeness. Yes, we need the yes, we need the seasonal signs. We need the understanding they both bring us in order to have a greater sense of our why we're here, our purpose, how to be informing the mysteries and be informed by the mysteries. It's really, really, really important. And I have heard Vedic and sidereal astrologers say, oh, tropical astrologers, they don't know what they're talking about. And tropical astrologers just don't get the whole thing about the constellations, but they also don't get why, sometimes they don't understand why, if you have a seasonal sign, like for example, I have the sun in Pisces, and so it's not in the constellation of the fish, it's in the constellation of the water bear, and that adds a whole different understanding when we get to start to put these pieces together. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, there's, reading the history of the zodiac and what took place, and there's a whole avenue you can travel down around this. And so the confusion is that, there's a sidereal zodiac, and then there's this tropical zodiac, and then there are people that work sometimes with both, or they other astrologers borrow from different things. So to answer the question that was posed around why are we using that, well, in shamanic astrology, the kind of astrology that Cayelin and I use, we use a tropical zodiac, but we also use the constellations because they help inform the signs, which is why we're doing this webinar series here. And so it's not a desperate or last-ditch effort to try to save maybe astrology. Astrology is about relationship with the earth and sky, and how we look at ourselves and connect to ourselves and have that relationship with that which is around us. So astrology is a powerful tool in this regard. And the seasonal signs themselves, as Cayelin mentioned, we have that. It's much more intimate. We have an intimate relationship with the earth and the seasonal flow of energy. And so we connect into that space. And so the signs themselves are these great ancient mystery schools and archetypes that we all are part of. And then the constellations themselves have their own energetic patterns and rhythms and connection to us as well. But that's again, these are different layers that are here in the sky and on the planet. But for those that want to know more, there's definitely various books that one can read and videos and so forth that one can get into and find out some of the more details on that. We don't have the band or the time here to explore all of that, but it is a good question.
But yeah, but the thing to keep in mind is that it's not either or, it's both and more. That's the thing we want to keep in mind. And that I loved how you said that, Erik, about the seasonal flow, the energy of the seasonal flow, because that definitely informs our experience, as do the constellations. And the thing I appreciate about sidereal astrology is they've kept a very strong connection to the constellations. Not so much the seasons, because they're not including that in their look at it. They're just looking at the constellations themselves as having their own unique energy. And that's something we can really benefit from, that understanding. And in fact, one of the things we are going to do is talk a little bit about the nakshatras in this class about where the 27 lunar mansions, the 27 places the moon can be over a month, and how that relates to the constellations and what planets you may have in certain lunar mansions. I'm very excited about that because it's how are we bringing these two things to work together? It's not either or. It's not this is right and this is wrong, or this is right and this is wrong. It's like they're both have value and we need to bring them together so we can have a greater sense of what's going on, a bigger picture of the whole thing. So here's an example. If we look at the sea goat or the goat fish, so it's representing the elements of water, the sea goat, and the of the earth, the goat, and there's a whole mythic story that goes behind this. We don't have time to do that right now, but if we think about the sea as water and the goat as earth, those two energies are connected with this constellation. And water's flowing, it has to do with emotions, and that emotions is energy in motion, moving, receptive, adaptable, the feeling realm. The earth is embodied, it's stable, it's grounded, it's dependable, it's practical, the physical realm. So how are those two things working together in this constellation? And because most people with any planets in Aquarius or angles or nodes in Aquarius, they're located in this constellation. And that means then that we're adding perhaps the qualities of earth and water that's infused into these stars, into the planets that are located here. And for example, my Mercury in Aquarius, very practical, very stable, very grounded. It's also can be flowing and, definitely has an ability to maybe tune in and feel things more deeply than it would be if it was just the sign of the season of Aquarius. So these are additional insights into how the constellations may be informing the signs at this time. And of course, there's going to be, over time, over 26,000 years, every season will be with every constellation. And that's why we have an evolutionary process. And that each time that happens, there's something that is growing in our understanding and awareness.
Thank you. Yes. So here's Cayelin, this is your the 1956. You're born. You're showing the different positions here.
Yeah, so I thought it might be fun just to see. So my moon is at 23 degrees Sagittarius, but you can see, and maybe Erik, you can point that out. It's right above the tail of the scorpion, or it's right near the tail of the scorpion. So in sidereal astrology, they say my moon is in Scorpio, but by seasonal sign, it was in Sagittarius, and it's in the Scorpion, which gives us additional information. My North Node, which I didn't, it's at like about 13 degrees Sagittarius, so it's near Antares. Antares is around 10 degrees Sagittarius. And so, so that my North Node is right with that royal star. Very cool to know. And then my Mars is in the Archer, in the sort of in the bow, not the bow, the bow.
The bow.
Yeah, it's in the bow. Right. So that also adds to the qualities that I would understand around what my Mars has to do, even though my Mars is at 333 Capricorn. And then Mercury, my Mercury's at 21 Aquarius in the tail of the sea goat, and really close to the star Deneb Algedi, one of the Bohemian stars, one of the magical stars, and also another star called Nashira. And so that is, in part, I've been having like major revelations about what that all means this year. Pretty amazing. So, and then as Erik was saying, the star Nunki that you can see here is that was the star that was rising when he was born. So he gives him a really strong connection to that particular star as a personal star. So these are some of the things we want to teach everybody, is how you can create your own map of where the planets were in what constellations at the time you were born. Now, I was born late at night, almost 11 p.m. at night, and so all this was below the horizon. Nobody would have seen it in the sky. But you can still create a star map to kind of get a sense of where these things were. And this is something that's super exciting to, and then we start to add our understanding of what the constellations mean, what the signs mean, and we start blending those energies together so we get a deeper understanding of what's going on.
Yeah, and we can even, in this other sense, I mean, there's that constellation Ophiuchus that also, I know, Cayelin, you talk about Russell Hogg a lot, and how it plays a role in because longitudinally, it's right on that space with the Sagittarius sign, and this is something you can draw from when it comes to the constellations. It's sometimes some other ones might be close to the ecliptic, but just off of it. And this is where it's like, okay, Ophiuchus is not part of the zodiacal constellations, nor is it a sign, but it has its own rich history. And of course, in 1933 is when the IAU redrew the constellation boundaries and completely changed all the way these constellations were like looked at, and where we measured the boundary. Oh, it's in that particular constellation. No, it's in that, but without regard to any cultural look at what they looked at. So it was a complete overrun of what was there before, and so anyway, that's another complication in this whole thing.
Part of what they did was they took Ophiuchus and drew it so that his feet were on the ecliptic, which hadn't been before. So
Right.
that's why you get all these articles that say, oh, there's really 13 constellations or 13 signs, not 12. Well, what they mean is there's 13 constellations, not 12. And that's only because they redrew the boundaries and the zodiacal constellations, the original 12, they decided to insert the feet of Ophiuchus into that. So they'll say, well, the sun is really in the constellation of Ophiuchus for like 2 or 2.5 weeks a year or something like that. When it's still in the Scorpion and going into the Archer. It's not a 13th season, because it's not seasonal. It is a constellation, but it's all based on how they drew it.
Exactly. It's which of course creates all kinds of confusion out there, and there are astronomers out there that share that astrology doesn't work because it doesn't have that 13th constellation. But this is without even actually studying what the structure of astrology really is, and even looking at the history and the relationship we've had as humanity's had with the stars. So it ignores all of that when they make those conclusions, which is completely biased. But that's a whole different topic.
That the signs that we're talking about in tropical astrology, especially, are seasonal, and so they'll also make arguments that. I've literally have talked to some astronomers that do get the difference, so that's kind of cool. But that like the moon being in the Scorpion, or the sun being in the Water Bear, it's like it's in the seasonal sign of Pisces because it's happening right before the spring equinox, and that's the season that energy is related to. But the problem is when they named the constellations the same name as the signs. And again, that's why people are so confused.
Yes.
Can't say that enough.
Exactly. All right. So
these are the main things that we wanted to talk about today. We're going to open it up for questions now. But if you want to take this class with us, you can go to mystaralchemy.com and click on the Zodiacal Constellations button on the main page, or on the pages where the class, I think there's a button for the classes, and you can get the details. And we have an early registration special. If you want to do this with us live, we'd love to have you.
Exactly. And we have also special rate for the star class that we taught last year about the Bohemian stars, the 15 magical stars of alchemy. And you can take a look at what that one's about at mystaralchemy.com. And there's a special bundle you can get if you want to get that course with the course we're talking about now.
Yeah, So now we might want to stop the share and open it up for questions.
Yes, so we'll go ahead and open this up to questions for them. And I apologize, Caitlin, I didn't mention this before, but I'm a little, not, I haven't been well last couple of days, and so anyway, I didn't sleep very well like you, and so I'm doing my best to stay present. It was, I was kind of on a semi-emergency mode when we got on before this call, so but
Yeah.
we'll be okay.
And so, just to maybe look at some of the questions that are in the chat, and if you want to ask a question, you can raise your hand, and we'd be happy to answer any questions. So, somebody was asking what the software was, what I did that. I did that on Starry Night. One of the things Erik and I are going to do. Stellarium is a free way of, you can go get Stellarium and create a star map for the day that you were born and look at where the planets were and what constellations. And we're going to create a video on how to do that. So if you don't want to have to, I paid for my Starry Night. Actually, got it years and years ago before I even knew Stellarium was a thing. So that's what I've been using. And you can also look at, there's apps on phones that you can get, Star Walk and other apps. I can't think of the name of them right now, but there's ways that you can look. And Time Nomad, I think, is one that you can, if you upgrade it to the night sky or the astronomy part of it, then you can also get a sense of where the planets were with what stars and that kind of thing as well. And that's for your phone. So, anything you want to add to that, Erik?
Oh, just sharing with people where they can get Stellarium on the chat. Yeah, that's Stellarium's a software I've been using for a number of years, probably at least 10, if not more. And there is a Stellarium app as well, although you have to pay for that one. I think that's like $3 or $4. And but yeah, Starry Night is a good option. There's more night sky apps than there ever has been. It's just like there's probably a dozen or more out there by now.
Yeah.
And then did you mention Time Nomad as well?
I did. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a phone one. And you were saying that you can get Stellarium on your phone for like $4 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they do it as a nonprofit. So it's more about the education of the night sky as their platform.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you, Faye, for saying that this adds such a deep layer to the natal chart, because it does. That's awesome. Love that you feel that way. And then somebody's asking, is the star lore have Greek origins or other? So most of the star lore we have for the constellations that most people can relate to or understand or have heard comes from the Greek. But we're trying to look at more than that in this class. There's Arabic, there's I don't know. I mean, I haven't really come across too much on the Mayan perspective, but the Chinese didn't look at the zodiacal constellations so much as being important as the ones along the celestial equator. That'll be another class that we'll do at some point. And but yeah, most of the stories that we tend to find and relate to and have heard connected to the constellations do come from the Greek. However, part of what I feel like we're doing is also, what are the new stories? These are old stories. What are the new stories? It's good, it may be helpful to know that the old stories are, but we want to know what the new stories are coming in. So, yay. And
yeah. And there's information out there about other cultures' views of constellations, like the Lakota here in the North American region, and the Scandinavian peoples, the Nordic people and their constellation, and Hawaii, Polynesia. There have been very different projections, but sometimes there were common threads through them all. And so we're going to be talking about various things when we talk about these zodiacal constellations, and sharing a little bit about history. But as Cayelin was sharing, is like, what are we gonna co-create with a new expression of them? Because they, over time, you know, we also inform them as much as they inform us, as Cayelin, you like to share often. So I'm definitely a firm uh, believer of that.
Yes. And so Faye has her hand raised.
Yeah, I just asked a question in the chat and I can just ask it live here. So at one point, did these things line up better? Like, in other words, it everything seems to have shifted a little bit, and is that because of the procession?
Yes. So what happened is that they forgot that there was a procession. And interestingly, even the
Who
Greeks,
forgot, Cayelin? When you say they, who?
whatever cultures that were looking at
Okay.
this. So the Greeks actually forgot. And then somebody was mapping out the stars. This was, back in BCE sometime. I don't know when exactly, but they were noticing, oh, wait, the sun is not rising in that constellation at that season. So there's a difference between the seasons and the constellations. They saw that. The Hellenistic astrologers saw that. That's why they asked the question. They went, oh, wait, the constellations have their own energy. The seasons have their own energy, and they're moving. And there's this thing that's happening. Well, that got forgotten again, and it was in a time when the spring equinox, zero Aries, we call it, and the constellation of the Ram, also known as Aries, were aligned. And so they think that we think that that's like maybe when they're lined up, but that's just when they named them and came up with these perspectives about how Aries is the ram and Pisces is the fish and Aquarius is the water bearer and Capricorn is the sea goat. So it's like, but then it all moved. It moves 1 degree every 72 years, and it's been moving for a long time. And that's why we are so confused now, because they thought they were the same. They had the same name for them. They didn't have a different name for them. And it was, so now we're trying to remember. It's like, how do we wake up to this
Yeah.
remembering and this understanding, and to bring wholeness back into our awareness of how this all works together?
Got it. One other thought that I had that is kind of really out there, and it maybe is a silly thought, but so we are looking at things that are on the galactic because we move, and our planets and our solar system move through that plane. But there's a whole pile of constellations above and beneath that plane. And I just had this flash, like, will there be a time when that shifts, when that plane shifts, and we'll be looking at even other constellations that are affecting us? Do you know what I'm saying? It's just, I mean, it's a far out thought, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's just why do we only look at things that are in that? Obviously, because
The path of the planets.
right,
It's the
right,
path of the sun, and the sun creates the seasons, and that's why
right.
we look at those constellations.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
And
okay.
so, yeah, maybe it's just, but I don't know when. Not
No,
my,
I know. When we get hit by something and
right.
we start spinning in the other direction or something.
Anything's
Anyhow,
possible.
thank you so much. I have to go, but I've so enjoyed this, and I can't wait for your course to begin.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
so
you,
much.
Faye.
Thanks.
So,
I think the constellations will definitely change over really long periods of time, tens of thousands of years, through up to millions of years. So there's going to be different patterns in the sky, and but the planetary orbits are generally stable, so they're going to still be, things are still going to be in that place, but we're going to be long gone and maybe living different lifetimes, looking at different patterns.
well, and our whole galaxy is moving through space, and a lot of galaxies are moving towards the great attractor, and the great, they're not even sure what the great attractor is, but they're like, all these galaxies are moving toward it. So what does that mean? I don't know. I don't have that broad of a view on it, and it's going to be a long, long time before it actually gets there. But what is it, like a super black hole, or is it, why is everything moving in that direction? So that's something they've been looking into for a long time, and there's answers, the ideas about what they think it is, but anyway.
Yeah, it's we really don't really know. We don't really know, like truly know, like the how gravity interacts on that kind of a level, especially on a galactic level, and how that interacts with, you got dozens of galaxies or hundreds of galaxies, which is basically what the Great Attractor is part of. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, and the thing
Go
is
ahead,
that
Cayelin.
what we can know is what's happening right now. And what does that mean? How are we engaged with it? What's the stories? What are the insights? What do we want to connect with around that? And ancient cultures did it. They had their stories. They connected with it in a certain way. We don't have to stick with that, but it's helpful to see how they did it, and maybe we can come up with our own way of doing it now, which is very exciting because then we become really conscious co-creators. How cool is that? So,
Do absolutely, yeah.
so if does anybody else have a question? If we might be getting towards the end, but you can raise your hand if you do, or put it in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to get ready to wrap this up. And thank you so much for letting us share about these mysteries. Of course, we're very passionate about them. Maybe you can tell.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. We look forward to seeing you on the course. So wish everyone a you know, happy rest of your week and weekend and beyond.
Yes, thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.